I'm back to do another video. And this is not so much a ranting and raving, it's more of a response video to activism of care. The psychotic narcopaths make their victims feel unworthy. I enjoyed that video, and I decided to do a video response, today because, it's nice to listen to your videos. I'm a huge fan, and I decided I'd give it a try because, hey, I've got all this time in my hands, so here it goes. I had some ideas as I was watching your video, listening to it, about how people can promote a better work environment, and how a lot of the things that have happened to me, as well as you and thousands of other people, how this could be eliminated. I mean, it can't be eliminated completely because there's always going to be those issues that are going to crop up in the workplace, but how they could be minimized. And I did mention in my last video about personality tests. I think that those are important, mainly because, we all know what it's like to work with a narcissist. And like I said, there's got to be ways to try to read this sort of behavior out as much as we possibly can. And, and also, initiating workplace bully-free environments. There are some companies that are taking the initiative to actually, set those rules and those boundaries in place, and that should be discussed within the orientation process, during their when they're first hired. It should also be restated in the company handbooks. I know a lot of handbooks do talk about, verbal horseplay and just hazing. These sort of behaviors that can actually ignite mob-type mentality, bullying behaviors. But it needs to be reinforced, and it needs to be stated, and it needs to be enforced, and it needs to be strictly enforced. And so definitely it all starts with leadership. It starts with leadership, and if the leadership is strong, then they will be able to minimize any of those issues that can crop up in the workplace. So I'm all for a bully-free workplace. And one of the things that I think creates most of the bullying and how it starts is gossip. Gossip is the main it's the starting point of everything that's destructive. And it's not to say that we shouldn't talk about one another. Sometimes you might say something that's actually a compliment to another person. Maybe that person looks nice that day, or maybe they bought a new car and you thought it was a cool car, so you wanted to tell your other coworker about the nice car that so-and-so bought, okay? That's not gossip, but I'm talking about malicious gossip. And, I was talking to Joel about a concept that I had heard many years ago, about 8 years ago, and it was called think. And think is basically, T would be for, is it true? H would be, is it honest or is it helpful? I would be, is it intelligent? N, is it necessary? And K, is it kind? And if people actually took the time to think about what they say before they say it, this goes not just for management, but I'm talking about subordinates, anybody who's conducting business, even if it's a vendor that's walking into an office or whatever. People have to have a certain code of ethics in order to conduct business correctly. You never want to say something that's going to offend people, And I have learned now that you can't be ambiguous, when you're talking to people, because people can. I think some people want to misunderstand you. I think some people are just spoiling for a fight, and they're just waiting for anything that you say to just blast off. I do have my feelings about how people are, but especially narcissistic people. But you could try to eliminate being ambiguous. You could try, eliminating gossip and keeping things. Now, that's not saying, I know some people are thinking, well, that's like censorship. No, it's not like censorship. It's about taking responsibility for your actions. I mean, for every action, there's a reaction. And when people understand that, they'd be a little bit more careful about what they do. And I understand, if people were also more focused on production, like the upper management, whether that be the owner of the company or maybe some bigwig that's sitting over on another, state and just kind of like contacts the office, a regional office in a certain area or whatever, these people should be aware of what leadership is doing at all times. I mean, they should have some sort of report, and I do think that leadership needs to be trained on some of the behavioral sciences. I'm not saying they have to be well-versed in it. They don't have to have a master's degree in it, and I think it's great that you do. I think that's what you said you had. If not, please correct me. But they do have to understand the certain basics and certain codes of ethics and certain things that can be said and certain things that are done that's going to trigger certain behaviors in certain people. And, you know, when you think about people who study business and they get their degrees in this, you know, business trends constantly change. You know, what's commonly used in business, you know, in one decade is going to change, you know, in a completely different another decade. But one thing that's never going to change is human behavior. And I'm all for, you know, people who are in positions, leadership positions, have an understanding of, at least the most basic understanding of business laws, the business laws in their, for the entire country, as well as the business laws that relate to their individual states. That right there kind of has leaves a platform for how people can actually determine, you know, how to hire, evaluate, and terminate employees. That kind of gives you a starting point. And then also have very strong codes of ethics, you know, and that should be restated in the company handbook, as well as a brief introduction when people are orientating their employees. Now, you were talking about how narcissists like to, you know, turn the tables around. I have been told by this particular nightmare narcissist fool that I was crazy. He would accuse me of being crazy all the time, and I know where that came from. That came from another narcissist that, you know, sadly is blood related to me. No, the thing is that they try to call you names so that they can take credit for your work, and so they can take credit for your work and make you feel as though you are actually beneath them, that they want to always make you, or they don't want you to be aware that you actually have qualities and skills that actually surpasses their skills, and that's something that creates envy in them. And they always want you to doubt yourself. They don't want you to believe in yourself. They don't want you to succeed. So their only recourse is to, you know, resort to name calling, bullying, and basically saying that you're crazy. Well, guess what? I'm not crazy. Surprise. You know, I'm a little disillusioned by, you know, my adulthood. What I mean by that is that, you know, when I was younger, I always knew I wanted to work in an office. You know, I was just like this really business-oriented person, even as a child. I mean, I knew that was what I was going to do. And it's not to say that I thought I was going to be a millionaire or anything like that, but I knew that somehow or another I was just really business-oriented. I mean, even as a child, I'd go into businesses, and I would kind of like pick it apart, like, wonder could they do this and could they do that, you know, could they kind of change this? I was always one of those people. As a matter of fact, when I was younger, my dad used to have a typewriter that he had in the military, and I used to just love playing and tapping on it, and actually taught myself typing, you know, because I figured, you know, I was going to start off as a secretary or something like that. You know, it's kind of silly, but, you know, what I'm basically telling you is that I have a knack for business, and I'm very motivated and energized about it. And I always thought, you know, when I was grow up, I would find other people who were just as focused, just as driven, just as, you know, eager to meet people who maybe had different talents, put your minds together, and actually be productive. And sadly, you know, there's entirely too much bullshit that goes on in the workplace, and I feel so empty and lost, you know, sometimes, because, and that's not to say that all I want to do is work, because, you know, hey, I can have fun too, I can be silly, I can let loose, and, you know, maybe it's just my opinion, okay, maybe my opinion doesn't count, okay, but I think I'm a pretty fun person, you know, people usually tell me, I usually make people laugh, you know, people feel relaxed around me, so it's not that, you know, I'm not uppity by any means, but I certainly am disappointed by the low standards that are set, and what is acceptable as far as, you know, how other people get away with things, and how there's this favoritism. And I think that's another thing I think that would help, is management kept in the back of their minds that they are always responsible for the people underneath them, and that there should be a comfortable distance between management and subordinates. There shouldn't be any yip-yapping, talking, creating more tension, because oftentimes the tension that goes on in the office is initiated by management. So, if there's a mob behavior, oftentimes it's because the management is encouraging the rest of the staff to be as devilish or evil as they are. And so I think management needs to keep certain things private from the rest of the office population, or whatever you want to call it. It shouldn't be shared information. The leader needs to be more instructional instead of, not saying it shouldn't be friendly, but they should discourage friendship, that kind of friendship. It shouldn't exist in the office. It's a conflict of interest, That would be something else that could eliminate it, the spreading of that social cancer. I was actually saying, ideally, in my perfect world, my narcissist-free utopia, it would be extermination of narcissist behaviors. People who are narcissists would be exterminated. Now, that sounds like a really harsh thing to say, but when you think about the things that I've gone through, you would understand. I'm sure you can relate. In the back of your mind, you're always thinking, that would be great. But, I am a law-abiding person. But if I could line them up, and there was no consequences for it, that would really relieve a lot of tension for me. I'm going to tell you right now. So narcissists lack tunnel vision, in my opinion. Narcissists lack tunnel vision. I'm the kind of person, I'm very focused on what I'm doing, and I love doing what I'm doing. I'm excited about it. You can't distract me from it. You're not taking me off of what I'm doing, and you can play, little stupid catty girls can sit there and dress up and strike a pose and try to get all his attention, whatever you want to do. But my goal is to finish my goal. And once an assignment is given to me, I'm enthusiastic about it. Now, if that's goofy and it's nerdy, well, too bad. Maybe I need to be around more goofy, nerdy people. That's a possibility. But, the thing is that narcissists don't have tunnel vision. And they do envy your tunnel vision, but it pisses them off that you have tunnel vision because you're not paying attention to them. And so they like to create all kinds of drama so that they try to divert your attention to them. Hey, I got this, I got an iPhone, I got this, whatever. And you're just sitting here like, okay, well, that doesn't really have anything to do with the project that I'm working on. And while you're sitting here trying to get your work done, that's pissing them off. I mean, there is, in my opinion, no room for a narcissist in this world. I mean, if I'm just blowing off smoke, and if I sound like dictatorial or just sick and tired of that whole narcissist tribe, and this goes beyond race, I'm going to call them a tribe, because there's narcissists in every racial group, okay? And I'm sick of them. Sick of them. But yeah, they lack focus, and the thing is, narcissists have a hard time accomplishing goals. They usually steal other people's goals. But the thing is, they might have a goal, but they get distracted in their competition that exists within their mind. So they see you doing something productive, and they may not even have an interest in what you've done. I mean, initially they never even started off being interested in what you've done. But because they see you happy and because they see you miserable, like you said, they're like pigs. They're fighting for the slop, and they want to grab shit. They want to take stuff. And then they get competitive over things. I mean, there is just no logic and reason with these people, and it just gets frustrating. But ideally, the whole thing is, I think that the reason why I do survive is because I have tunnel vision. I have the ability to focus, and that's something that narcissists lack. I tend to get off on different subjects. And you also mentioned how narcissists like to bring up your past, and I would say that that's true. I mean, like, the reason why I think that I've been mobbed and harassed out of every job is because of my past, like 20 years ago. Like, it hasn't sunk into my family's head that, people shouldn't be held responsible for things that happened 20 years ago or whatever, and they just won't get over the past, maybe because they can't accept that maybe you've changed and you're a better person, and they just always want to see you as some low-life scum of the earth, and it makes them feel better. I'm not exactly sure. That's my theory anyway. I would like to dig into more why, they're seeing them bringing up your past, or maybe they just like bringing up your failures because it makes them feel better. I mean, everything that narcissists do, they do for their own pleasure. So Anyway, that's just my thoughts on the issue. I too am going through a lot of the psychological trauma and the effects of being exposed to this. And I think you're right. People need to get more active. Even if it's talking to other people, forming groups. I would love to form a group in my town. I would love to do that because I'm not sure if I'm the only one at the current moment who's being targeted or whatever. But I know this happens to a lot of people, and they need support, and there needs to be some sort of shelter and something that they could go to and redirect them, because even if it's something like, and please, I would love to hear your thoughts on this, because I'm thinking, being a targeted individual is terrifying. It is a terrifying situation. These people think that it's funny when you walk into the store and they repeat things that you've said in your house. What I feel is psychologically traumatized by it. I mean, one of the reasons why people were so freaked out about the George Orwell book, the 1984 book, is because people couldn't imagine, living under surveillance, and they couldn't imagine, having their every move watched and that sort of thing. And just the thought of something like that was just like, ooh, that's creepy. But the point is that, targeted individuals go through this all the time, and these people don't know what they're doing to people. They don't have any idea. They think it's funny, they think they're being cute, they think they're being cheeky, but what they're doing is they are actually creating more trauma every single time they play one of their stupid, thoughtless jokes. And I think that people in leadership, and anybody really, to me, shouldn't resort to that sort of behavior. And society as a whole needs social reforming. They do. I mean, I'm not saying that, I have all the class in the world, okay? There's a lot of things that I need to work on as far as my interactions with people. I'm not perfect, but I will say that, the conduct that I have seen directed towards me is enough to put me in the state of mind that I'm in right now. And I'm so grateful that I have the strong will that I do, because I'm going to tell you what, these people will break you. There is no end to their foolishness, absolutely none, and they have to be told. And anybody who has to be told how to conduct themselves don't belong in leadership roles. They just don't. They could be reminded, they could be given, constructive criticism, they could be redirected a little bit, but if you have to lay out the groundwork for how they're supposed to behave, you're already in trouble. So, anyway, that's my thought on it. I wanted to go ahead and introduce myself, let you know, hey, I'm a huge fan of yours. I think your videos are great. I haven't seen all the 1,000, I think you had 1,000 videos. I haven't watched them all, but that gives me something to look forward to. Anyway, until then, I will talk to you later, and I appreciate what you're doing. You give me a lot of hope, and you keep me going. So just keep up the good work. Take care. Bye-bye.